We do. So they were around here very sneakily, calling, making lots and lots of noise last night. As we were chatting about earlier, it's the Nkuhuma pride. It looks, I'm trying to figure out which one of the adults, because they're lying in this long grass and it's proving quite difficult to count if all of them are here. I can see at least at least 4 adults. I'm sure all 5 of them are here. And then there's a big Brimingham too, who I can't see. Craig, do you think we can have a look at the Birmingham's face? I just want to see if I can see any identifying features there. Yes, no, I don't know who this is. Maybe informal? But it's hard to say. But you can let us know. And you're also good at IDing these big cats in #SafariLive. Now, we are just, if you didn't hear me talking about it earlier, we're near Inga's. Sorry, Chantal's just asking me where the lions are. So we're near Inga's. That's the house that the other people that work with us live in. But we're sitting here, and this is a real carpet of lions. I think it is informal. Yes, I can see that cut on his eye now that he opened it. See that? Just at the edge? I think it is. But we'll wait. If he stands up, that'll be great. Now, he's got a very full belly. Very, very round. So he's had something to eat. Everybody else doesn't really look like they've had much at all. They've got slight little bellies. But that's it. Oh, that male lion is just sat up. Just watching. Yeah, definitely informal. You can see quite easily now. He's the most battered of all the boys, and he's got that big cut on his right eye, just under his eye. He always seems to have altercations. What a beautiful lion. Nonetheless, shame, Craig, I haven't really done you much justice. I wonder if I reverse a little bit, if I do this, you can get a clearer shot of his face. Let me do that. Let me just reposition slightly so we can have a look at him with... How's that? That better? There we go. Now you can all take some nice screenshots. There we go. You don't have any branches in your way. It is, of course, very difficult to try and get a clear view, especially when the lions are laying flat in the grass, which they do oh so well. But take full advantage of this beautiful fella as he sits up, because I don't think he's going to stay in this upright position for very long. He looks exhausted. I don't know what he's caught. I don't know, maybe they took down a wildebeest last night. That would explain why the wildebeest have run so far away and are on Impala Plains now. But look at those eyes growing very heavy. I reckon his nose is going to touch the ground very shortly, and he'll roll back onto his back with his belly up towards the sky. But this is nice. I'm glad the lions are back, which would mean that they will be back for this afternoon as well. I don't think that they'll get moving. The only thing they might do, though, is the spot that they're in is not a particularly good spot to sort of shade themselves. It's very exposed. It's very open. And they might move. If I were them, I think they'll probably go a little bit further east or north. And there's some nice marula trees. This block is actually quite a lovely block. And there's lots of guarri trees that they can sort of lay underneath and be protected from the sun, because it is going to be a warm day today. And I just wonder when they settled down. So we didn't come this side this morning, actually. We drove all the way along Zoe's Road and we checked the boundaries. I didn't actually see where those lions have crossed in. I don't know where the Nkuhumas have been for the last few days either. They've been MIA, moving all over the show, constantly searching for buffalo. Now, if they'd taken down a buffalo, we would still see some remnants of it, so I don't think that that's what they caught. I think it must have been something quite small. There's one of the adults, one of the lionesses. Still trying to see 1, 2, 3. There's, you know, the juveniles now, the sub-adults, have got so big that when they lay down in the grass like this, it's almost impossible to tell the difference between the adults and the youngsters, barring that they still have a slightly fluffy coat. It almost looks like they haven't been paying attention to grooming, which I think is the least of their worries at this age. But how peaceful is this? Isn't this awesome? Lots of sleepy cats. Now remember, this is live. This is happening right now. And we'd love to hear from you. So you can hashtag Safari Live with any of your questions. Isn't this cool? Nena's my favourite Birmingham, but because I don't see him very often, Nkuhuma is actually starting to grow on me now. He's a very, very nice lion to photograph with all those cuts on his faces. Now he's just looking around. I think he's giving everybody the evil eye. We're all sitting in the sighting watching him just going, oh, I thought I'd given you all the slip. Almost. But not quite just yet. Now, Jono to Summit, you're wondering if I know how old this fella is. Yeah, we do. We have a rough sort of estimate as to the ages of the Birminghams. When they first arrived, they were about 5 years old. They must be almost 6.5. Yeah, about 6.5. We undecided because there's 4 Birminghams. There used to be 5, but sadly one of them was taken out by a buffalo. See, the tables do turn occasionally. Now, Nsuku and Nena have much darker manes, more fuller manes, and they've had their big manes for quite some time. So we think that they are a little bit older than Tinyo and Nkuhuma. I think Nkuhuma might actually be the youngest male in the pride, because his mane is only just starting to turn that sort of darker colour now. And typically, if it is a dark mane lion, not all lions have dark manes like this, that normally starts to develop at about 6 years old. So I reckon that the Birmingham boys, and of course this is just my opinion, nobody knows for sure their exact date of birth, so it's sort of a rough estimate, but I reckon that they're between about 6 and 6.5 years old now. Somewhere around there, give or take a little bit. Maybe even Nsuku and Nena could be closer to 7 years old. But they all would have left their pride, their maternal pride, all around the same time. So it doesn't matter even if there's a year, sometimes even 2 years age gap, you'll find that the male lions will stick together and all try and leave at the same time. They've got a better chance of survival by doing it that way too, rather than one going off on his own and then a couple of months later another one going off on his own. Oh, are we going to do a big yawn for us? Yes, good boy. Oh, not really a big yawn. Just a little one. And that's not him going to wake up. I think that's him doing a yawn going, right, I'm ready to go to bed now again. There we go. These canines are still in good condition too. Tinyo has not got the greatest canines. That's what his name means, tooth. Yeah, come on, give us one. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Especially that his mane is backlit. What a stunning lion. Now, Saturn Digit, I think that's how we say it. You're wondering if this pride has got any nearby competition. Most certainly. There's actually quite a few lion prides within the area. So I think, if anything, the biggest competition for the Nkuhuma pride in terms of size has to be from the Torchwood pride. Now, they don't normally step foot onto Djuma, but occasionally we see their tracks crossing in on the eastern corner of the property, but then they don't come into the property for very long and then they disappear again. I have yet to see the Torchwood pride. So that's their biggest competition. There's quite a few females, lots of cubs, but the Birmingham boys also go through and sort of maintain a relationship with them. Then we've got the Styx pride, but that's only 3 lionesses. So 3 lionesses versus 5 lionesses plus all these sub-adult cubs. Not really too much competition. So the Styx will try and keep away from the Nkuhumas, and the Nkuhumas will try and chase them out. Then there's the Tsalalas too. Again, it's a sort of small little breakaway pride. There's only, last time there was only 2 females. So not very many at all. So not huge competition, but that doesn't mean to say that tomorrow a new pride could move into the area. Things like this can happen all the time. Oh, you didn't like that. I think he removed a tick from his paw and then got it stuck in his teeth. So at the moment, the Nkuhuma pride seem to be the greatest around here. Faisal, you say that Nkuhuma is the Scarface of the Sabi sand. I suppose. I don't think he's quite as well known as the Scarface in the Masai Mara National Park. He's definitely one of the most famous lions out there. Hey, good boy. Now look how big he is, especially with that big belly. Now don't hide and scratch like that. Let me go back a little bit more for you, Craig. Just try and keep angling it so we can see him nicely. There we go. That's a bit better. Now, Joe, you're wondering, what does Mfumo mean? Mfumo means the authority. And I suppose it's very fitting, because if anybody gets a hiding, Mfumo is usually the one that gives it. He boxes with his brothers all the time. Him and Tinyo used to have the most dramatic fights over females, which is also quite common. So there's not just one dominant male within a coalition. They are constantly competing with one another. So one day, you might have had a better meal and you're feeling fitter and stronger than your brother. And that doesn't mean that they're blood related too. They could just come from the same pride. And then they'll have a box. They'll have a fight. And whoever wins that argument, it doesn't normally end in death. It's just a scrap amongst siblings. Like, you know how you at home, my brother and I, when we were younger, we often used to get into fights, which is normal. Now we're the best of friends. And it's the same thing. And one week Sean would win a fight, and the next week I would, come out being the winner. And it chops and changes like that. But normally they're quite placid. That just causes a bit of a stir when the females come into estrus. Then you can imagine they all want to mate with them. But normally it ends up being that all the males in the pride end up mating with the same female. So you never really know as to which offspring, who's fathered the offspring. He's very itchy. Just behind his leg there, he's enjoying that scratch. You can see licking his lips. That's always so funny to see. We see it with our cats and our dogs doing it, but it's quite amusing to see a fully grown male lion do that. Yes, you need to clean your face up. I think you need the ladies to help you, but they can groom their faces. What they will do is they'll lick their paws and then sort of stroke over their faces with their wet paws, and that will help groom the hair. But we'll stay with these lions and see what they get up to. Byron's sitting at a dam, and I reckon he's wanting to do some birding. Oops, they are got a bit excited there. They are indeed still resting. They got a fright just now. I'm not sure what happened. Craig seems to think that maybe one of them had a nightmare, which is also a possibility. They dream just like our domesticated cats and dogs do at home. And then as the one lioness jumped up, she gave a couple of the others a fright. Now, that Brimingham boy, he doesn't care where he sits, and he's just about sat on one of the female's heads. And if you watch her tail, that one on the left, you can see that she's swishing her tail. I think she's slightly agitated with the Brimingham boy. He also got up just now and he was trying to sniff the females, and they weren't having any of it. So he better watch himself, because he's like a big hippopotamus at the moment. He just plonked himself down on top of everybody. I'm hoping, though, if we sit here, that they are going to move, because the sun is warming up quite nicely now. It's lovely. Craig and I are envious of these lions. We wish we could be sprawled out like that too, although the way that I'm sitting at the moment, I may resemble a lion. But maybe they'll get up and give us a bit of action if they do move towards another tree. That's the plan, and we've seen these lions do that often. Many a times when we've been following the big cats and they stop to lay down to have a rest, it's never for very long, because the sun keeps rising and changing the sort of shadows that it's casting, and there are no shadows here for these lions to really sleep in, barring the odd one from the bush willow here and there, but it's not particularly good. But I'm happy that it looks like they've had something to eat, even though it looks like Mfumo has eaten every single bit of it. Joe wants to know how many lions are in the park. Well, Joe, many, because remember, this is open to the Great Kruger National Park, so essentially these animals have got 8.5 million acres of land to move around on. That's a whole ton. I don't know how many prides are exactly on the 8.5 million acres of land, but there are plenty of them just in the Sabi sands. So the possibilities of prides of lions that we can see up in this area are, of course, the Nkuhuma pride, which is the pride we're looking at now, then the Torchwood pride, which I spoke about briefly, as well as the Sticks and the Tsalalas are normally the ones that we typically see. But my goodness, the further you go south in the park, heading towards the southern sands, There are so many different prides of lions now, and there are lots of coalitions of males, and they're constantly moving around. Well, the boys are the ones that will move very, very far. They don't necessarily stay in the same area for their entire life because they get chased out of the pride. So look at the Birminghams, for example. They come all the way from the Timbavati. That's quite far from here. As the crow flies, maybe not so far, but they have to go all the way around. Remember, around the 8.5 million acres of land, there is one boundary fence, but they can move in between. And so it's not a typically square property because there's lots of sort of main roads and things that run around in this area. And don't quite dissect the park, but the fences go around those roads. So it's a strange shape. Fast asleep again, though. They really do blend into this grass. Isn't this amazing? Byron's having a great day. He's usually doing lots and lots of birdings. We're going to stay with these cats, so we'll try and be as patient as we absolutely can. And hopefully it will pay off. I've just also got to keep in mind the other guides and the sightings, so we'll see if there's any standbys, because we might have to pull out, seeing as we've been here the longest now. Rexon has moved out to make space. But let's go across to Byron and see what other feathered friends he's got to show you. Goodness. Just when I thought that the gremlins weren't going to come back and haunt us, that's exactly what they've gone and done. Sorry about that, Jamie, but here we are. We're back with Nkuhuma Pride, and they're still asleep. What a surprise. But I don't really blame them for enjoying a snooze. Remember, big cats need to conserve their energy. It's very important that they do so. If they spent their days running around entertaining you and I, well, they wouldn't be very good hunters, and they're not the greatest hunters as is. So they need to sleep. But look at them. They're completely in the sun now, and the sun is warming up. Almost past the point where it's not going to be comfortable for too much longer. So they're going to have to move. There's no shade anywhere near here. They're going to have to travel a little bit of a way. Now, can I have that again, please, Chantal? I think I missed a vital part there. Okay. There we go. That I wasn't... let me take that out. Okay, so now I can hear you now. Thank you. Kobe, you were wondering if lions need. Yes, we see them sort of needing, especially when the youngsters are suckling. They tend to do so. But other than that, not really. We're actually talking about it yesterday when we were watching, I think it was yesterday morning, we were watching little Nkuhuma suckling her mom, the hyena. That's what I'm talking about, and I was wondering if hyenas did it. We do see the big cats doing it. Something else that I enjoy watching cats do, which domestic cats do exactly the same thing, is using the trees as scratching posts. That's very impressive, and actually Mfumo has got his paw sprawled out on a bush willow tree. He's just using it. I think that's obviously comfortable. I don't know for how much longer that's going to be comfortable for, but I absolutely love watching them stretch right up into the trees and then scratching on the bark. That, of course, is very important. It helps strengthen the tendons, and then it also, of course, gets rid of any old nail sheaths. There's one lioness now who's opened her eyes, a little bit itchy. Now she's starting to groom a fellow member of the pride. Who's that? Is that on Amber eyes? It looks like it, doesn't it? Just when the light hits her eyes nicely, they're not that golden colour. Or are they? Or are my eyes playing tricks on myself? It's hard to see, isn't it? They don't look like they want to do too much. She looks exhausted. Just trying to scratch the back of her neck by the looks of it. Well, let's see. Let's see if she's going to continue grooming. She's not, of course, grooming herself, but this is something that we see quite often with the big cats, and even with a mother and a youngster, with a variety of different species. They all will groom each other. It's very important, especially for hunting, if you think about it. If you're constantly grooming one another, you're strengthening the bond, you're reassuring that bond, and that definitely helps when you go out on a hunt, because you know each other very well. It's Very quiet around here. A couple of francolins calling in the distance, but not much else. Well, the wind is also starting to pick up. That'll be a nice cool breeze. But everybody else has still got their heads flat on the ground, eyes closed, not really looking like they're going to do too much. But the nice thing with a lion pride is you only need one lion to get up and start moving before they all play follow my leader. And hopefully this lass, yeah, it is Amber Eyes. Hello, beautiful. We haven't seen you for a long time. She's looking in fantastic, strong condition, don't you think? I'm so sorry, Chantal. I'm just struggling to hear you. I don't know why. Maybe it's just my earpiece. The comms are coming through. Let me just adjust volumes. Can I please have that question from the snazzy again? Ah, okay. Now, sorry, this is from Snazzy. We're just having a couple of comms problems today. We will try and get them sorted. And you're wondering, well, you said, I guess that the white marking under their eye is part of their print. It is. All lions have got that white marking under their eye, and it's very valuable to them at night, particularly at night, because that helps reflect any light from the stars, from the moon, wherever it may be coming from, back into their eyes, and then they're then able to utilize it, and it helps them see better. So it is very, very important that they have that. You even see it with the kudu and the nyala, the animals that are living in the very thick vegetation. They have it, and I'm sure it plays a similar role. But remember, the lion's eyes are much more different to those of herbivores. Are you going to get up, young lady? No, that's very sweet there. This is my favorite, seeing a carpet of cats like this. Isn't that great? Right, let's go across to Byron now. It seems as though he's arrived at the Bushbrass site. We'll stick with these lions. Hopefully they'll get up, but I can smell that fire burning. Oh, thank you, Jamie. That's very sweet of you. Yes, we're still here. Still with our lions, and they're still licking. Well, at least one lioness, that is. Now you can see the blood on her paw, though. You can see just a little bit. I wonder if they also weren't scrapping over whatever they were feeding on at one point. I can imagine trying to fight him for more would have been a little bit of a struggle, though you wouldn't think so with 4 lionesses. I can't see the 5th lioness either. I'm trying to have a count. I can see all the cubs, but there's definitely one lioness that's not here. Maybe she'll come back. Let me just check out. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I don't know. 1, 2, 3. I can't even count the cubs. It's just the bodies everywhere at the moment. It's so difficult to see in the long grass. So I'm not sure if all the adults are here. I can only see really 4 big lionesses. But I stand under correction, of course. But maybe this afternoon, if they do start to get up and start moving around, because I don't think they'll go far now, barring maybe moving to find some more shade, that we'll get some action this evening. Even though they have eaten this morning, like we've been saying, it's not a particularly big meal, and they will try and hunt again as soon as they get another opportunity. And quarantine is not far from here. There were wildebeest, there were impala. There's often zebra scattered around these areas too. And of course, if it's going to be a hot day, the animals need to go down and have a drink. And Tayla Dam is not too far from here at all. So that would be a good spot. And waterbuck have to go down all the time. Lots of inyala around there. So this afternoon might be quite exciting. But if you have a look at that lioness, look how she's cleaning her toes now. It's quite interesting. So we saw the blood on her toes. Now she's trying to get rid of it. Yeah, she's stretched her foot out. That's so sweet. And trying to stick her tongue in between each toe to get rid of all of that blood. They don't like to be dirty. Spend quite a bit of time grooming themselves every single day. She was grooming one of the other lionesses. Now she's actually taking a moment to take care of herself. They've got those claws coming out now too. Oh, that's so cool. Something that we don't often get to see. Normally we only see the claws when they're grooming themselves like this, or if they're holding on to an animal, like a buffalo, then you'll see them coming out. And so sharp. So sharp. You wouldn't want to be scratched by one of them. but making sure she doesn't miss any spots at all. It's actually been a fantastic morning, hasn't it? And if this mic pack falls out once more, it's going to end up in the middle of the Pride lions. Oh, well, no, I don't want to upset the lions. I'll feed it to Nkuhuma. That was my thing that was irritating me today. And when it falls, it pulls my hair. Not nice. Not comfortable at all. We'll get that sorted for this afternoon. I'm so excited for later to see what's going to arrive. Maybe some buffalo bulls come down towards WildEarthTV Dam. They seem to enjoy doing that as we finish the show. The buffalo come down, have a drink, and the wind is actually coming in their direction. They could pick up on the scent, and I'm sure they would make a move. So make sure you keep watching the dam cam throughout the day. Keep us updated. Hashtag Safari Live if anything interesting comes past, or if you hear alarm calls. That'll all, of course, help us. We're trying to find these cats a little bit later if they do decide to move. But maybe not. They seem to be enjoying the sun now. No one else has woken up just yet. A herd of elephants could come through here too and chase them up. But it has been, as I've been saying, it's been fantastic. A variety of animals, from lions to plenty of elephants to lots and lots of birds. Who knows what we're going to find this afternoon, but we hope to see you on the Sunset Safari. Don't miss it. We'll see you later.